All right, good morning, everybody. Today is March 28th, 2024. Time is 9 o'clock. We will be calling this meeting to order. All board members are present and accounted for. At this time, if we can stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, please bless Green Valley, the employees, ratepayers, and all our partners that we do business with. Please give us the wisdom for this board to do what we need to do to protect the company and guide this company into the future. Also, a part of this invocation, I'd like to take a moment of silence for Gary Rose, one of our starch advocates for Green Valley, our umpire, to say the least, somebody who would call balls and strikes when the board or the company did the right things and the wrong things. Man of integrity, professionalism, and somebody with a lot of wisdom that shared with many of the board members and staff. Thank you. If any other board members want to say anything, I'll allow them at this time. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take your seats, please. Thank you. All right, public comments. I don't believe we have anybody sign in. We did have a submission via email from Stacy Day, located in Marion, Texas, 78124. She says, please read the following. Please allow this letter to be submitted and read to the public comment at the March 28, 2024 Board of Directors meeting. My name is Stacy Day. I recently moved to Green Valley, which is in a new house development still under construction off of Wild Road. I was told the housing development would eventually connect to Green Valley Road and include approximately 1,000 new homes. Apologize if the numbers homes is not correct, as I was unable to confirm this. My neighborhood is an HOA. Every home site has sod laid in the entire front yard, sides of the houses, and 20 feet out from front to back, or back of the houses. We do not have a choice on sod being laid. It was done at the completion of the house being built. We may choose to apply to the HOA for xeriscaping or any changes we make to the yards. There are guidelines for this in the HOA declarations and covenants. I moved here in January from Kyle, where we remained on a stage 3 water restriction for some time, all while the new homes continue to be built at the rapid pace and with all the grass in the yards. These new builds were also in the HOA communities. In HOA communities, there is an exception to keep grass green, even with strict water restrictions in place. In my previous neighborhood in Kyle, violations for grass not being green were still being issued during water restrictions. I asked the board to consider some sort of program offering grants or rebates for homeowners who would like to switch to their grass over the drought-tolerant landscaping. Summer will be here before we know it, and with the rapid pace of homes being built and the water shortages that have plagued the state, a head start on this makes sense. Drought-tolerant yards should also be discussed for builders before building, which goes straight to the root of the problem. Other cities, different versions of programs, such as City of San Marcos, City of San Antonio, City of New Braunfels, City of Austin. For the record, I've linked each just named to their water rebate programs for convenience. So there are hyperlinks via the email. In my opinion, rebates for removing grass and replacing something that does not need water should be at the top of the list. If there is a grant or rebate available, I would have applied already to have my entire front yard done. Any program that is considered should be beneficial to saving water, rebates, and grants in the amounts that would really assist with reaching the intended goal and streamline process where homeowners are not burdened with unnecessary rules or red tape. Thank you for this time. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard as a new resident of Marion. Thank you, Stacy. I don't believe so. All right, moving on to consent agenda, item D. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There'll be no discussion of these items unless a board member so choose so. In which this case, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered any action taken as necessary as part of the order of business.
Got me now. Thank you, David. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items D1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
A second.
In an unprecedented move, Nick has done it again.
I did it last month too.
We're going 2 for 2.
I made a
so-
couple very positive comments to Philip beforehand, but trying to move it along. So
Awesome. So we have a motion by Mr. Sherman, a second by Mrs. McDaniel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Guys have it. Okay, item E, hear updates on the following items from GVSUD general manager, staff, and committee chairs, and take action as necessary. Number 1, E1, business operations interim general manager, Philip DeFrancesco.
Should have a copy of my memo dated March 20th. An update is that we did have an offer accepted by a financial controller. We are estimating that person to be in a start date of April 15th. At the closing of our Excalibur loan happened 3 weeks ago. There was a change on the initial LUEs that we were prepaying for in the Sarah Martinez 4 wastewater plant. It was estimated to be, I believe, 295 LUEs, and it is actually 291. Just that there was a little issue with the math, and contacting the loan officer to see what we do with the remainder, because the amount didn't quite add up to a full LUE. So did receive good feedback from our engineering RFQ. We had a lot of applicants, and staff and the construction committee are reviewing those right now. %, design plans from the district engineer, and staff has reviewed that with comments, and we'll discuss that a little bit further in the construction committee update.
Thank you.
I have one question, Philip, on the cleaning out of the old headquarters. Is any of that material still good? Is it all junk? Is it trash? Are we scrapping anything that's valuable to scrap? How are we handling that?
Any items that were determined to be scrap value were sent to the scrapyard, and we have receipts for that. We did, I think, have 2 roll-offs worth of just trash to get rid of, and I believe we went through the Apache Waste Management. Any personal effects from employees or former employees were removed. As of yesterday, I believe that they are all officially gone, and everything should be cleaned out and ready to sell.
Anybody have any other comments, concerns? Good. All right. Thank you, Philip. Operations report and updates, Pam.
I do want to make one correction, Philip. We had 3. We actually filled a roll-off dumpster 3 times. Clarify that. Any questions regarding the operations report? And also want to let you know, we do have the pump and haul truck listed on the govdeals.com as far as for sale. We have that auction going through April the 19th. There are 3 other vehicles we will be putting on there. I'm just waiting to get some additional information as far as what is wrong with the vehicles, as far as mechanical issues. I was advised that if there's any type of mechanical issues, it's always better to go ahead and disclose those, because if you don't, it could hurt you later on down the road when you try to sell vehicles. But I did go back through our minutes last year, and I did find an additional truck that was a surplus a little bit earlier last year. So we'll get all three of those also on that website.
That was gonna be my question. Make sure that we've properly, declared those as surplus?
Yes, I've actually created files to where I found the minutes where we declared them surplus so that it's ever questioned. I do have that record of that being done. And we're, the website, the lady that I spoke to, we're taking lots of pictures and it's really kind of interesting how it's done and a whole lot better than just advertising in the paper. She says it actually goes up more national than just our local area.
I do have one question
Mhm.
on our wastewater monthly averages. So
Sure.
we actually went down a little bit in February. Is that tied to just a wet January where we had
I
some high
believe
enough-
so. It was just a wetter January.
But still holding pretty tight at 22%
Yes.
capacity?
Just a question, if I
Sure.
may, just anecdotally, not necessary. Y'all listed the pump and haul truck. What are you asking for it, or do you just put it up there and take bids?
Well, we have a reserve price we put on it that has to be met. However, if you go to it, I don't want anybody to be shocked, but the beginning bid starts at 50,000.
Okay.
And that's just a a rule of thumb. They said usually about 20-30% lower. It gets people to look at the vehicle versus putting a starting bid on it. They don't even want to look at it. But it is in pristine condition. I did call to try to get help on pricing it. But where we purchased the truck, they said they don't do that, but he told me where to go to look. They don't have anything what we have on their site. However, a brand new one right now runs about 315,000. And ours is a 2019, only has 35,000 miles on it. So technically it is still a baby truck.
Last, I saw yesterday was at 65,000.
Okay,
Someone did bid on it?
Someone has been bidding on it.
right.
so.
And if they don't meet our reserve price, we do not have to sell it. We can put it out there, discuss it if we want to lower it or put it out there for additional
Philip, I
auction.
wonder, what are we gonna do for something in the Christmas parade now that the pump and haul truck is gone?
We got one more.
have
We still have one.
Two.
And I have one other comment for Gary on your water inventory. ARWA Phase 1, based on our meeting yesterday, best case scenario is July 1st of 24. I was going to get to that later, but I have it circled here. The treatment plant is delayed, and that's best case scenario for actual delivery of water. So we just make a tiny adjustment if necessary.
And then a comment on that also, after this board meeting for the next month, I'll get with Gary and Gary will get that updated for us. So next month you'll have an updated water inventory list. Is that correct, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's in the back.
okay. I just didn't want to overspeak. Okay.
I have kind of a request on
Mhm.
the water rights allotment page. We're going to speak to it, Mr. Sherman and I, under the CRWA, but we need to add the Wells Ranch 3. At least note that we have access to Wells Ranch 3 on
Okay.
a public document, because there's concern that water's ours. I just want to make sure that we publicly acknowledge
Okay.
that Wells
Do
Ranch
you-
3 is a project we're a part of.
If there's an allotment, a total amount that we have available, do you want that listed also? Or just?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. We're still working on the details of all of that,
I
but
think it's 306 2/3
of the current 9.
of that available 920.
okay.
Yeah, if you could find that out, that'd be really helpful to put that amount on the
Okay.
report too.
I'll see what I can do and have that on there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Good? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, E3, CRWA, Board of Trustees, post-meeting updates. Mr. Cooper, Mr. Sherman.
Notes just disappeared. Stand by. You go ahead, Steve, or you want me to lead off? We went through all the reports. We get that report at the trustees meeting, at the Board of Managers meeting and the Board of Trustees meeting. The Board of Managers meeting is pretty much copy and paste of some of these items. The biggest item I have highlighted on my notes is the Wells Ranch 3. As Steve alluded to, there was some discussion that Green Valley was not going to be involved in this next phase of the Wells Ranch project. Based on Steve and I's construction committee with Wells Ranch, at CRWA, specifically for the Wells Ranch, we are involved if we're interested. I asked that an action item be added to our agenda to where we can publicly say and send over to CRWA that absolutely we're interested. There's a bit of an interim phase. What are we calling it? Wells Ranch 3 Phase 1, Steve? That there's 920 additional acre feet available. Could be available in very short order. Mr. Schwinn, the interim general manager, has given staff a 6-month deadline to upgrade a pump, a motor, and potentially some overhead electrical to power that. But that'll pump an extra 920 acre feet, and there are 3 participants. It's our understanding we would split that water evenly between Springs Hill, East Central, and Green Valley SUD. So that was the biggest item that weren't just kind of informational reports going along. We do still have some litigation with Tri-Hydro between Canyon Regional and Tri-Hydro, so that's in process. And I believe, Steve, you're on the mediation committee, is that correct?
Correct. And in process means there is no advancement of that at all.
Those are the highlights that I have that are important to my eyes. Anything else, Steve?
There's a couple of FYIs I want to share with you. The Hayes Caldwell dispute is going to mediation, and finally all parties have agreed to sit down and talk. And I just talked to Shan this morning, and he said the date was May 17th.
17th, yeah.
Thank you. May 17th was the first date that they're to sit down. So finally being able to move that project forward is really important. Also, CRWA board approved the new general manager of Carrie Averett, AverYt. I believe he started full-time already. He
The
was at our
construction committee
construction
day, yeah.
meeting.
That was his first day.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a good guy, and we should see a lot of changes coming up. I will also share, just as an FYI, the litigation up north. I don't need to give you the details, but the motion passed to go to mediation and to get this resolved 9-8. It barely passed because half the parties had to abstain. So technically, without them involved in the process, it was a unanimous vote to basically force mediation. So
under this item is that resolution. It had been called Wells Ranch 2.5. I think we officially named it Wells Ranch 3 Phase 1.
Phase 1. Yeah.
So I don't know how exactly Shan, any guidance with a name change based on when we posted this?
I think that, as long as you clarify in the motion what we're voting about, and I think this is plenty of notice to the public that we're considering, participating in a CRWA project.
All our concern, Nick and I's biggest concern is that he was receiving certain information. I was receiving exact opposite information, but there was no clear direction from the board that this is a project that we want to participate in. Not that we're committing any money, not that we're committing any resources at this point in time. We just want to assure that Green Valley has a seat at the table for that water. Correct?
There will be small costs associated with it. It's a single pump that needs to be a larger pump, a larger motor, and potentially some heavier overhead electric. But that is very low. I mean, Gary, give me a head nod if that's cheap for up, 300 plus acre feet of water. The staff is working through the exact cost of it, but Steve and I agree. I think we should have a motion that we are interested in participating, and we can always back out if we don't want to.
And ensure that the general manager or acting general manager has the ability to take the board's opinion to CRWA to ensure that we get that water.
And I want to clarify, and I realize that now we're talking about 2 general managers ago with Canyon Regional, but and the meetings that Green Valley staff had with Canyon Regional staff, it was always the intent to participate.
Yeah, well, that intent apparently disappeared in a conversation with Mr. Sherman until I kind of cornered them and they said, oh, no, Green Valley still has access. So Nick and I's intent is just to ensure that publicly we acknowledge the fact that we went in that project.
So my comments to what you guys are asking for, in a way, I know for clarification reasons, I'm okay with it. But if the board appointed both of y'all to the board of CRWA as representation of our board, you guys should have, I would think, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, authorization until it gets to the point of costs to enter into discussions, to enter into those conversations that, yes, our interest and our vision is articulated by Nick and Steve to get into those things without us, the board, needing to take action for that to happen. Now, once it gets to the dollar amount, saying, okay, now here comes a bill, then that's board action.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Okay. But
And just to remember, this entire project initially started with 13,000 acre feet of water was the goal.
The Wells
They've only-
Ranch 3, correct?
They've only come up with less than 1,000 acre feet.
I thought it was more like 9.
980, wasn't it?
I thought it was 9,000.
Was the original goal?
And I've
Now,
asked.
Brandon
Mr.
told me it was 13 because I was confused on that too. Anyway, the point is that the actual leases that they've received are less than a tenth of what the original plan was for that project. So everybody's assumption was that the project was dead. Well, we also discovered that they're already pumping water off of those leases that are going on to the CRWA.
Yeah, we've got more digging to do, more,
yeah.
but I will say this is exactly why it's important to have folks that are being on these committees, because we get more information out of the committee meetings than we do out of the trustee meetings, in my opinion.
So-
Have more discussion.
So again, we all know the importance of water allocation for future use. We obviously identified during our workshop the importance of it. I want y'all to have the ability to, at y'all's direction, to enter into those conversations at any point without holding back. If you both feel it's right, if you say, hey, we need to get in on that, y'all start the conversation and then kick it back to the board for final approval.
Steve and I are just trying to make
So-
sure all the information is being relayed back to our full.
No, I agree, but we don't want any moment for y'all to be held back. We entrust y'all to represent us.
And I
So-
appreciate that, but just know that we're not committing to any dollars. We're
Right.
not committing any finances to any of these projects
Correct.
without board approval. But at this point in time, there are no dollars being requested,
And that's
yet.
fine.
but it's coming. It's coming.
But again, you guys are empowered by us appointing y'all there to go and talk and get us back that information. Don't hold back. And for clarification, if we need a resolution, I mean, I'm fine with that. If we need to make it official that, yes, we are wanting to participate, we will continue to participate in Wells Ranch Phase 3. If y'all want to make that motion.
I'll make a motion, just, so we've got it on here. Let's just go ahead and do it. So it's,
Official,
it's
yeah.
official, but I'll make a motion that Green Valley SUD, reaffirms our interest in participating in the next phase of the Wells Ranch project.
You have a motion by Mr. Sherman,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Cooper. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Thank y'all very much. All right, E4, CRWA Board of Managers post-meeting updates.
The Board of Managers meetings was very similar to the Board of Trustees meeting. We get detailed reports from the engineers about the status of current projects. You know, it's nothing more than, informational beyond what we've already shared in the board.
Okay.
But it is very worthwhile attending.
Since y'all are still on CRWA, I just thought I'd kind of add a little color to the mediation timing. Three of the four of the five parties were available to start this in April, and in one party, Martindale was not available before late April, and then that pushed our our agreed mediators availability back to May. So it's unfortunate that it's taken that long to get started, but hopefully there will be a lot of groundwork and informal discussions before we get there that will help make that a productive mediation. That's all. Thanks.
All right, going to E5, ARWA Board of Directors post-meeting updates. Mr. Sherman.
The Alliance meeting was, it was remote this month. Every once a quarter, it's in person. The rest of the meetings are available to be remote. I'm intending to go to as many in person as possible. I feel like I just get more information, interact better with people. Most of the items were housekeeping, hiring the construction testing firm for the next phase of one of the pipe segments. Hearing reports about the status of everything. I mentioned earlier that the biggest issue is that the water treatment plant is dramatically delayed, about 10 months delayed based on their estimated schedule. At last month's meeting, I heard for the first time, last month was my first meeting, and then they reiterated again. A lot of the delay is self-inflicted by the contractor, specifically the electrician. When they poured their duct banks, they allowed stormwater. They didn't protect the end of the open duct banks, and they allowed mud to enter, the conduit that need to receive conductor onto this phase, but also the spares. So I credit Pape Dawson for identifying it immediately and holding their feet to the fire. The electrician is having to clean every single conduit, which is a very difficult and time-consuming process, but it's going to get the correct product. Staff is withholding $8,000 a day liquidated damages so that the Alliance Board will have the opportunity to withhold those funds at the end of the project when they do reach substantial completion, if they choose to. Won't comment to whether we do that or not. And then the other big item was we're going to have a discussion item next month about financing the next phase of Alliance. It's the paperwork shown lists $90 million construction cost plus 7.5 in design and application fees for bonds, that sort of thing. But just be aware, probably next month, we're going to be asked, do we want to participate in the next phase of Wells Ranch? I'm sorry, of the Alliance project. And probably we do, because we need more water. And then based on Gary's water availability table, I think that next page is like 2,500 acre feet is what you have listed.
My understanding of that is the percentage that you're contract for phase 2 currently. But talking with David Davenport back in the year, whenever that was all going on, is the intent was earmarked for the same percentage for the next phase. And then as people drop off, or if somebody doesn't want to participate, that would open new water. But you're not committed to that. You're not under contract for it, but there may be additional water, or you could back off if you wanted to. But that's the way they were putting it on paper, is you're in the same percentage for that next phase.
Excellent. I'll make sure that's our starting point until this board decides to go up or down.
But again, to our point, the board appointed you on there. If open availability comes up where other parties backed out of their allocation, please, I would think, enter into discussion of taking that. Correct, everybody? I mean, we still want to get every little chance we get, not holding it back.
And like I said, the paperwork shows just shy of $100 million total project. So depending on what percentage of the overall project we're interested in, that's some easy math to estimate how much it'll cost us total.
And the other thing I will add is that if we don't take our share of the water, it will be taken from us.
Right.
Everybody's looking for water right now, so we always need to make sure that we've got access.
But that was phase 2. So phase 2, from what the water table shows, is 2185.
21.
Okay, so. Okay, got it.
And it should be generally cost-effective water, because the easements were purchased under phase 1, the pipeline easements were purchased under phase 1, the major components of the plant were installed under phase 1. Phase 2 will involve just additional wells, upgrades to the plant. The pipelines are in place, so it should be cost per acre foot of water a much lower price than we're paying under phase 1. So we kind of get the benefit of buying in so heavily under phase 1 when we get to phase.
But there's no timeline on when people are told it's either you enter in agreements now or back out no later than this
No,
date? Or
this was just an informational heads
Okay.
up that we're going to talk about it in detail next month. So.
Cool, thank you. All right, going to E6, Board of Directors Committee Meetings Update. Construction Committee, Mr. Sherman.
I need to work with Cody in getting our meetings moved forward a little bit, so I have more than one day to get a report into the packet. But James and Sherry and I met with staff and went over in great detail the 30% drawings on the wastewater treatment plant expansion. We need to really talk about that a little bit. I think some of the original intents have changed. And I do want to talk about it a little bit under personnel matters, about how we got where we are under item M in executive session. But at this point, nothing else other than we had a great meeting with the staff. I met Claire for the first time. I told her in person that I've heard great things about her, and in person, she's a high quality employee. So I want to make sure to point that out to any of the board members that haven't met her. That's a good employee we have.
Awesome. Thank you. Executive Committee. All right, so my memo was in the packet with Baker Tilly's meeting. They're the headhunter for the general manager's position. That position has been posted to the website and other areas. We'll be talking about that in executive session as far as other details to go along with that. Comments, concerns?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
It took CRWA 6 weeks to get a general manager hired, interviewed, staff up and running. We've got a May to June timeline on this. That is just
So-
way too long.
We have the timeline we're gonna present to the executive or an executive session as far as everything drawn out when it comes to the general manager's hiring. So we're gonna do that more informational brief in there.
So the May, June timeline is incorrect in
It
your
could just
report?
be April, May. So again, the timeline that they created as to the interviews and the process behind it, they outlined all that, and we're gonna share that in a minute, so. Okay, going to item G, or sorry, F. Discussion of Green Valley SUD building facility warranty claims and take action as necessary. Philip, you wanna talk about that?
Staff has contacted the general contractor, Drymala, regarding the warranty claims. They've been receptive to responding to them, but there's still concern on some major issues. So staff has contacted the construction attorney that Green Valley used for issues at the office of the wastewater plant when that was constructed in 2022. And we're in talks with that attorney on the best way to proceed forward. But we are still in warranty period through April 28th.
Oh, I'm going to speak a little bit. I asked for this item to be added. I want to make sure that we don't miss any deadlines for filing, warranty claims. If the warranty claims demonstrate that there might be some design concerns that we would need to address with the architect, I also don't want to miss any timeframes and windows where we can still talk to the architect about some of those issues. That's why I put it on here. I'm glad that sound like the appropriate steps. I just want to make sure we haven't paid for something in one service or another, and then it wasn't done correctly or properly or not right, and then we have to remedy it later. So if we chose specific features or lack of features that were our decisions, okay, that's one thing. But if we ask for something and we didn't get that product, I want to make sure we cover ourselves and take whatever steps we need to. So it sounds like you guys are on top of it. But that's generally why I asked for this item to be included.
Are there any outstanding issues that we're aware of right now?
Yes.
There are.
Yes.
Ballpark,
You
how
briefly
many?
cover those in executive later?
Pardon?
Could you briefly cover those, hit the the 10,000-foot description of what we're looking at in executive? Because,
Agenda item, I can discuss that in, then yes, absolutely.
see, I'm on the facilities committee and I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's no prohibition on taking any item that's on our agenda into executive session. So if someone wants to do that, you just need to announce it and specify the item number and the grounds, which
And
would,
I think
which
the
this
grounds would be under
relates to
legal,
potential claims and.
but
but
legal
it-
action against the claims. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
attorney.
Yeah,
client
absolutely.
lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the one who recommended this particular lawyer, so I'm aware of the issues generally. So I'm happy
Yeah,
to
we'll,
talk
we'll
about it.
talk it up in there.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, item G, consider the disposition and declare 6 electrical material racks and surplus property following Texas Water Code, section 49.226, and take action as necessary.
We have any use at all for these electrical racks?
I believe actually one of them, we did find a use for the larger pipe. I don't know if it's 16 or what size pipe, but yes, the larger pipe right now, one of them is being used and 5 are not.
So we should
Just do
modify the
5.
5.
We can modify this agenda item to declare 5 electrical material racks as surplus.
I'll make them, if no one else has any comments or questions, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we declare 5 electrical material racks as surplus property and dispose of them following Texas Water Code 49.226.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, going to item H, consider the GVSUD 2024 water master plan and take action as necessary. Gary?
Just a couple of brief comments and then we'll open it up for questions if there are any. We had a workshop a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Had a few comments from the board and staff to address. We've addressed those. And then there was direction to prioritize the projects that has been done, and that's one of the next agenda items. But as far as the master plan goes, we've addressed the comments from staff and from the workshop. Happy to answer any questions, but approval of this master plan would move us forward to the impact fee study and being able to calculate that new impact fee and then go through the TC process to get that started. But we need an approved plan prior to starting the impact fee study. With that, is there anything specific that you want me to cover that we didn't?
As far as the number breakdown, as impact fee study wise, the numbers proposed in the CIP projects, that is at today's calculations
That's
for
correct.
today's costs.
Today's dollars, yes.
So how would we, if we know in the future, it's 5 years out, 6 years, 10 years out, the inflation rate between now and then, how do we roll that into the study to where it's accounted for? So by the time that we get to it, it's a wash and it's not a negative on us.
Chapter 395 of the local government code allows you to include inflation and interest. We talked about that a little bit in the workshop, talked to it at length with staff. And the decision at that point was to not include it. If you want to, one of the main reasons for that is probably need some direction from the board on which projects are going to be financed, because we can't include an interest calculations if they're not financed. If you're going to pay cash from cash reserves, impact fee reserves, we can't include an interest calculation. Inflation, we can put that in there. We just need to prioritize the project and say, okay, we're going to build this one in 2026. We need this many years of inflation. But then if we're going to include that, you'll have to give me direction on what percentage you want to use. Hopefully we see inflation start to level off, but and it has to some extent, but not as much as we would like it to. But
That, and
yeah.
John, that's right in line with what my questions were going to be. Meeting with staff, some of our construction committee meetings, some of the comments from staff is, hey, our impact fees are low. And if need to charge the proper rates so that we can do what we need to do, and you quit hearing me complain about all the money we're spending and, borrowing, if we're getting our impact fee, which is designed to pay for the infrastructure that we need to build to provide the service. The growth pays for the growth. And that's the way I think we should do it. So I don't want to overcharge, but I also don't want to leave money on the table that we're justified to charge. So part of the report towards the back, it seems to prioritize some of the projects. My suggestion would be to incorporate your 5-year outlook and your 6 to 10-year outlook, move those priorities in and then just break them up evenly into the
We
year.
prioritize the next 5 years projects, and that would be the basis of the impact fee study. And then the discussion with staff has been annually prior to your rate study starting in the budget cycle, budget preparation cycle, we would relook at the plan and prioritize, okay, we're coming into 2025. What are the projects? Is it one project? Is it 3 projects? What's the dollar amount? And then basically that's not going to change the impact fee. You can change your impact fee annually, but it gets to be a nightmare on pulling a contract and knowing which impact fee they're currently under and making sure those contracts are covered under that. But definitely we can include interest, we can include inflation. But just have to be really careful on the interest calculation that it is a finance project and that there is and then get some information from your financial advisor on if we were going to sell a bond in 2026, what 5% interest, is it 3?
Are we allowed to make assumptions, say 50% of the projects, and then therefore 50% of the cost we assume?
Yeah,
Maybe
you
we
can.
can-
And the other thing with impact fees under Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code, the impact fee is developers paying half of the fee. It's divided by 2. So you calculate the maximum allowable fee, divide it by 2, and that's your impact fee. So they're contributing cash up front half. The rest is built into the rate structure. So they're not, a lot of times we get heat from developers on, your fee high. And we actually did that with a industrial that we helped negotiate a contract with for y'all several years ago, and they were our full rate, but nothing more. And it's like, well, double that number because you're only paying half of it.
When we have studies that are recent and up to date, it makes it, but we're charging correctly. Because when was the last time we looked at this plan?
You were under a 2014 master plan, but 2019 impact fee study. So the last increase was 2019.
We need to do it more frequently. I do have one, maybe just a little boo-boo here. On sheet 10 under 4.0, we say we've looked at the 6% average annual growth along with an 8 and a 10% annual average growth in the text of 4.0 there, but then the table it references shows a 4, 6, and 8.
I probably didn't update that because that was one of the things that came out of the workshop was we looked back at actual water use, not customer growth. So those are 2 different numbers. They correlate, but I'll
Just
update.
make sure they
I'll update
they
that.
square up. And then I had a couple questions about specific projects, but I won't
Okay.
dive into that.
Sure. So on the moving this forward, if the board wishes to approve this and we start the impact fee, do you want us to run the impact fee with no inflation and no interest, give you that calculation, and then kind of the 3 steps? One, just the way, today's cost, what the impact fee would be, then add an interest calculation, and then add a interest and inflation calculation. Maybe it's 4 scenarios.
What's the timeline to be able to do a rate analysis on the?
I'd have to look back at our proposal, but I think I had something like 8 or 9 weeks to get those calculations
After that
done.
study's done, when can we do the next?
You can do it annually. Typically, TCEQ has been taking 7 to 9 months to get this approved. So you're always pretty much a year behind by the time you do the study. And you have to look at it every 5 years, but you can look at it annually if you wanted to adjust. And I think it's good take the temperature, make sure that nothing has changed drastically. If we get a high inflation environment again, or, we say we're going to run at 5% inflation and then 3 years out, it's 2% inflation, we probably need to look at it and make an adjustment. But it gets hard to keep up with if we're going to adjust on an annual basis because we're just constantly submitting to TCEQ and getting those approvals done. But if something drastically changes, we need to be accurate and we need to go back to TCEQ. But I think,
Your opinion, what's an appropriate timeline? 3 years?
I think 2 to 3 years, yeah. Because that will give you an outlook. The hard thing to do is, what is development going to do in 3 years? It's harder to say what development's going to do in 5 years. So I think 5 years is too long. I think you need to look at it annually in your budget cycle, but probably not adjust except for every 2 to 3 years.
Thank you.
So the comments and concerns we've had about, the prioritizing and inflation on that, if we approve the study as presented today,
Mhm.
you can adjust those in the impact fee study to account for our questions and
Yes.
concerns?
Yeah, we're just setting costs today and projects. So in the impact fee study, we can take those numbers and then add. The other thing that's not included in these cost estimates are the soft costs. So if you are going to go out and get financing or sell a bond, there's financial advisor, bond counsel, there's Water Development Board, origination fees. So
And we can capture those in
we
the
can.
next step.
That's correct. Yes. We can't include them and then not sell the debt though, because we'd be receiving more from the developer than we're legally allowed to.
I think I'm comfortable with the plan as presented and just make that one slight
Yeah,
adjustment.
if you just want to put that in the motion, I'll make that change to sheet 10 and we can go
And
from
you
there.
and staff can work together on the next step, capturing the few comments we've had.
Very good.
I'll make the motion since I had the one adjustment. Would you have something, Steve? So I'll make the motion that we approve the GVSUD 2024 Water Master Plan with the one modification to section 4.0 that was discussed.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Got it. Thank you. Appreciate it. And then now going to item I, consider and discuss the proposed fiscal year 2024, 2025 operational and capital improvements project, CIP priority project listing, and take action as necessary.
So this is one of the things that came out of the workshop that we had a few weeks ago. One of the reasons that we split it into a separate agenda item is we wanted to make sure that the master plan was approved, because if the master plan moved around, then this listing would move around. So we decided to split it up. Gabe asked me and staff asked me to prepare this. This is not my list. It's the staff list. We went through operations and then the CIP group and prioritized over two or three meetings these projects. I would anticipate there's probably some sticker shock. There's big numbers there, but they're all needed projects. I think the biggest input that we need from the board is, or I guess a clarification is on operational projects. That's why we identified operational projects. They're not impact fee eligible. They don't fall within Chapter 395 of the Local Government Code, which says we can only set impact fees for creating capacity. So, for instance, the project number 1000, that's an older part of the district. It's built out. It has 2, 4, and 6-inch lines, no fire flow, no fire hydrants. A lot of those lines are in the backyards of homes. They're in alleyways and hard to get to. Again, big number. We understand that. Staff and I have talked about that a lot. You're going to have to break that up over multiple years, but I think it's, I think that helps with your water loss. You have a lot of old lines over there and they're calcified. There's a lot of calcium built up in them whenever, that was one of the things that came from the operational group. They go over there to fix something and it's completely calcified within the pipe. So, flow rates are down and that type of thing. So anyway, all of that to say, that's why there's an operational set, is that's not impact fee eligible. You can't use capital reserves for it. it has to be within your operating budget to move that forward, which hits your rate structure. So these are the priorities that came from staff. I did put together just a, it's on the second page, the operational improvement project budgeting. Right now, the priority projects is almost $8.8 million. There is, I know whenever I met with Gabe and his staff, they were looking at the budget. There's some remaining budget this year that may be able to tackle a couple of these projects, some of the smaller ones. But then moving forward, it's my understanding that you've engaged the rate consultants to start working on this next year budget cycle. You're going to have to feed him information on what do you want that number to be? How much do you want to spend on operational improvements? So the 1.8 million is what staff came up with and said that we think that's what needs to happen. Obviously, the board is in charge of that and in charge of the budget. But we just need direction. And then I think depending on how this conversation and this presentation goes, we can change the memo, and this may be the basis of what goes to the rate consultant. But it can move around. And then one of the things that staff asked me to do was just to break up. They want to start working on that project 1000 to replace those old lines, but they know it's going to be split up. What they were thinking about is trying to budget 850. I don't know if that's a good number. It may be less, but that's direction from the board. On the capital projects, there's a number of projects that need to be addressed over the near term. One of those is project number 1. That one was prioritized to the top, mainly because we need to link Plant 1 and Plant 2. The easement, there was an easement issue back several years ago that has been resolved.
That's the low water horse
Yeah.
property on Green.
Correct. Yes.
It's 16-inch on either side, isn't it?
24.
It's
Yeah,
24.
it's 24 on both sides. Yeah, so that easement issue has been resolved. One of the things that moved this to the top for Gabe and his staff is the Plan 11 construction. We open bids next Tuesday on that project. We can make the project work as far as tie-ins at Plan 11. We're going to have to move some water, or the way the system is operating today. The challenge is if we run into any problems on those tie-ins and need a few extra days, this is the missing link of that. We're going to plan and try to get motor control centers and everything in as quickly as possible during that shutdown. Contractors are telling us 2 to 3 days. Last year, you had an event where the Plan 11 was down for 5 days and you survived, but there's really not a safety net beyond that. So that's why this project came to the top as project priority number 1, is just the safety net. That's it's a high growth area, but it's a built out area too. You have a lot of customers, a lot of customer base over there. On project 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D, the reason we named it that way, that's one thing we discussed at the workshop, is acquisition of future plant property. Buy it today instead of buying it whenever you need it, and being able to set cost estimates in the future, knowing where that facility is going to be and what, if there are any challenges on that site as far as, grading or that type of thing. So we put together a number. We pulled out these 4 projects. 2 of them are in the 1 to 5 year, and 2 of them are in the 6 to 10 year range. Again, board action can tell us, go buy the first 2 and delay the other 2. But staff thought it was important to go ahead and secure those sites so that you can properly plan in the future. And possibly some of that could be paid under this current budget year if everyone was mobilized fast enough to, as far as going out and start talking to property owners. The rest are all priority projects in priority rank, numbers 2 through 6. But I can go into detail if you would like. I think the only one I had a note on was project number 4. If you remember, last year there was a PUC complaint on Lower Seguin Road. Green Valley responded back to PUC and the property owner and said, we're going to prioritize this project. That is that project. It's a 8-inch line that's had several leaks on it, continues to have leaks on it. Requires easement acquisition. Portions of it is out in the right of way, but I just wanted to point that out that it did hit high in the priority list, and we just need to figure out how to pay for it and how to do it. But wanted to point that one out. The other ones, project number 5 and 6, those are so you have a new elevated tank within the last couple of years at Plant 3. The pump station and a fill line is needed to bring more water to that area. You're starting to see some growth over there, and you have several applications for service and contracts for that area. But some of those projects were a little more higher priority than these. So we're anticipating that those will probably come in either the next budget cycle or the following. That's really all I had to comment on the memo. Again, if there's you want to move priorities around or talk about how to finance these projects or operational, or how we want to respond to the rate consultant and on the operational or capital projects, he'll need both of those. Any comments or direction from that?
So I would probably advise the construction committee to get together, review this, kick it back to staff. Staff come up with a financing mechanism to get these priorities done with the finance committee. And then at that point, pitch it back to the board for approval. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Anybody else have any comments?
So you nailed it on the head. A little sticker shock, it's a lot of pesos. I do like what staff has done, suggesting break things up into reasonable bites. That's wise. And then also, if we know, this is great information because I don't have this list of detailed stuff. If we know we need to do so many of these on our budget, when we get to our budgeting phase, we got priority number 1, $2 million project, priority number 2, $800,000 project that we're going to do under this budget year. That helps me review the numbers and make sure I'm comfortable with everything. So
I think going to the construction committee is probably the right move. The other thing that will do is Gabe has a lot of information on, he has a hotspot map of where leaks are. And that was pretty telling whenever we pull it up and you can see all the work orders on some of these lines. You have to do it, but you may need to split it into phases to
having
get
a
it.
plan helps us justify
Sure.
to if we have to raise a rate. And someone says, well, I don't want to raise the rate. We say, well, look, here's our priority list. Here's the millions and millions
Right.
of not growth related projects, but just maintenance projects.
Ability.
Yeah.
Right.
So having a plan is great. Everything other than the dollar amount.
Yeah, exactly.
This
Yeah.
was good. So
No, we knew that coming in, and we talked about that at length, and we could have brought a slim down plan to you, but it's not taking care of the
give us
district.
the information.
Yeah.
Let us know where we're at, and
Right.
this is good. So
Want to
Great.
make a comment that the plan is to bring this to the board at budgeting time. Whenever we start looking at the capital improvement project budget, we're going to have, new Jen in the room. We're going to have our engineer in the room. We're going to have staff in the room, and bring everything to the construction committee as well and say, here's the projects that we're intending for fiscal year 25. Here's where the money's coming from. This is the projects that were on the master plan that was brought to you guys 6 months ago. And this is where we're at. This master plan is going to be a guide to assist us in the budgeting process as well. It's not just for doubles hitting the dirt. It's for the money side.
The only thing I would add also is one of the things from meeting with the operations side of the house here, these cost estimates are based on designing a project, putting it out to bid, and hiring a contractor to do it. Operations did mention there's some of them, they may not be in the top priority, but there's some of the projects that they could knock out in-house. So I think that maybe breaking that budget out and saying we're going to fund you to go do these projects in-house. I mean, that's money well spent to not have to mobilize a contractor. So I think that's something good for the construction committee to hear. and maybe they can prioritize, here's the 3 or 4 projects next year we can knock off at half the price or less. But all the costs that are in here are based on design, bid, build, an outside contractor doing it.
We need any action on this item today or?
I don't believe so. I think we just, if that's the direction to go to the construction committee, I think we can do that. Okay.
Thank you. Going to item J, GVSUD Development Report from District Engineer and Capital Improvement Construction Projects and Proposed New Developments.
So Gabriel Cantu is not here today. He's actually presenting at the TRWA Rural WaterCon on behalf of Green Valley. He does have a memo that was typed up and included in the board members' packets. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, and either myself or our district engineers will answer.
Have any comments? Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Good. Okay, thank you for the report. Okay, going to item K, consider non-standard water and or wastewater service agreements and take action as necessary. K1 is the C-Store Seguin, also known as DM Dirt LLC Water, southeast quadrant of IH10 and FM 725 intersection in Seguin's ETJ.
So this is the project that there was an application for water and sewer. The board took action a month or 2 ago to release the CCN for the sewer. So City of Seguin is going to serve the tract. This is the water portion of that. It's 10 commercial EDUs and 1.5 irrigation EDUs. I believe it's going to be a convenience store. Pretty straightforward. There is an off-site extension actually from the water line that's being built on Highway 90, Alt Highway 90 down to River Road. So that area is becoming a hotspot with development. It's 2,006 feet of 8-inch water line will provide the fire flow and potable flow that they need. The developer has come back with the contract and said they're ready to go. So now it's to the board to approve. Nothing out of the ordinary here and no cost on Green Valley. The developer is paying for the offsite line plus all the applicable fees for water acquisition, impact fees, all of that.
That was my question I've got highlighted here is who pays that 256,000? So it covers the offsite.
Yes, it's all on him.
Not all the fire flow is addressed in here. I don't have any other.
Yeah,
questions.
and we've kind of in the past, we've looked at those projects and sometimes Green Valley is designing and putting a contract out to build those. The direction so far or on the recent ones has been developer, if you want to do it, you design it, you build it, we'll inspect it, we'll review plans. So that's what's in here is developer, you go design, engage your engineer, survey, easements, all of that. And
Do you require easements?
there are existing easements there. So easements aren't an issue. It's just too small of a line. I believe it's a 2-inch line that runs up there now.
I'll make a motion that we approve the non-standard water service. Let's see, am I reading this right? The non-standard water service agreement for the C-Store Seguin, AKA DM Dirt LLC, as submitted, as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Okay, so item L, hear updates on items below from GVSD General Counsel and take action as necessary. Shannon?
Yeah, there's one new potential pending litigation matter that I'd like to address with y'all in executive session and no legal changes affecting the district.
Much. Okay, so at this time is 10:04. We're gonna take a 10-minute recess and reconvene. Thank you. No, just recess right now. And then we'll reconvene and then we'll All right, time's 10:14. We're coming back from recess. So at this time, we're going to enter into closed session in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.071 through 551.074 and 551.076. Matters on attorney-client privilege. Thank you. Time is 10:15. All right, calling back into open session. Time is 12:28. We took items M, N, O, P, and Q into executive session. We are moving to,
The construction committee as well.
and the construction committee matters under E6. I. We are moving to post-executive session, R, consideration and possible action on items discussed in executive session.
I make a motion that we consider offers to, I'm sorry. Let me start over. I make a motion that we accept the offer from Guadalupe County to purchase former GVSUD headquarters property, 529 South Center Street, Marion, Texas, 78124, and take action as necessary.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Going to item S, consideration of proposed items to be included on next month's board meeting agenda. Do you have any comments? If you don't have any, just email Philip if you need something on there. Okay. Item T, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 12:29.